What's up guys, Everything Apple Pro here. Today I'm comparing the new M9 to the iPhone 6. I want to see how these phones compare in day-to-day usage. Beyond just specs, how do these phones compare feature-wise, and is one better than the other? Now both of these phones are a collective result of so many generations of phones. The HTC and iPhone both have many generations before them, and these companies have had time to learn. So by no means is the M9 a thin phone. It's very hefty. It's wider, taller, thicker than the iPhone 6, as well as heavier. And that really does make a difference in day-to-day usage. Now, although the design languages are very different on these phones, you can certainly appreciate the quality and craftsmanship on both of these phones. Both are made of an aluminum material, both have a glass coating on top. The iPhone 6 being ion strength and glass, HTC has the latest Gorilla Glass 4 technology. The display sizes are not the same. The HTC has a 5-inch display, whereas the iPhone slightly smaller at 4.7 inches. So there certainly is a size difference between these phones. Now, build quality on both is great. Gotta say, the aluminum really makes sense on phones. It makes for a premium finish. The iPhone 6 does not attract fingerprints on the back, and the HTC One M9 is a fingerprint magnet. I mean, the back is a jewelry grade finish, which takes 300 hours to complete, and that two-tone finish of the colors certainly looks great. HTC was really proud of their M8 series, so they decided to refine the shell even further. I mean, you could hardly tell this thing apart from the M8. They just decided it was that good. They rounded the edges slightly. They gave this thing a really nice finish. It looks great in the sunlight, and if you're worried about durability, don't be. The M9 and the iPhone 6 both stood up to my drop test. It was incredible just how far these phones went, and they survived. The HTC One M9, a slightly better one. I mean, the whole frame is coming apart, but that display, the Gorilla Glass, really can take a hit. When it comes to usability, the M9 has a really awkward power button placement. The volume buttons constantly get in the way. I'm confusing one or the other. Whoever decided to move them over from the other side hasn't been using this thing himself. One-handed use on the M9 is surprisingly good. The concave back and thicker frame of the phone allows you to grip it easier. Although there's no dedicated one-hand use like the iPhone, it's not too bad. I guess you could say that's one of the benefits of having a slightly thicker phone. It's easier to hold. Now the iPhone 6, being a slightly smaller phone, is also very comfortable to hold with one hand and use. It also does have a reachability view where you can double tap the home button and the screen comes down. Now when it comes to displays, both of these do have an LCD IPS panel. However, the HTC One M9 is using a slightly different variation of it. It's a Super LCD, which is more efficient when displaying white colors and is supposedly better in outdoors. The resolution on the HTC One M9 is slightly better as it's packing a full HD display, the same display as the previous generation with some slight color alterations. The iPhone 6, just a 326 pixel density. But one thing we can agree on is that both of these phones are virtually unusable in direct sunlight. This is full brightness, and as you can see, I can barely see anything. Taking a look at color reproduction, I noticed the one thing. There's a pattern on the M9. All of the photos are slightly more gray or dull, a little bit lifeless. It seems as if they didn't get the color reproduction right, whereas on the iPhone 6, the very same photos have a more true-to-life color to them. I mean, they're brighter, more juicier, and I absolutely love it. Aside from that small color issue, both displays look good. Now, when taking a look at the specs, it's easy to get impressed by the HTC One M9. It has an octa-core processor, 3 GB of RAM. I mean, that's just crazy. Well, the real-world usage is where it actually matters, and surprisingly, the iPhone 6 does a marvelous job. Although it's considered an octa-core processor, there's a lot of technicalities. You're only using 4 cores at one time, and unless you need the more powerful side of the core, you're only using the weak side at one time. Unfortunately, Apple chose to remain with 1 GB of RAM, which is DDR3 specification, whereas the M9 already has DDR4, the latest and fastest, and that's painfully apparent on the iPhone when switching between apps or loading web pages. Now, specs are just specs. I really want to see how these compare in the real life by running a Geekbench. Android phones tend to be overpowered because Android is not meant to run on one certain device. It's meant to run on a whole platform, so the optimization is certainly not as good as the iPhone. And as we receive the results, wow, the iPhone 6 has outperformed the M9 in a single core score and is really close to the multi-core score. That's a little bit embarrassing for the M9 as it boasts such impressive specs. The single core score is what matters. In day-to-day usage, you're only going to be using one core for tasks. You're not going to use several cores to launch an application unless it's a game or a really intensive application. Most people won't even notice the speed difference. Now, I downloaded a couple games from the app stores. These are exactly the same on both devices. Just wanted to see how the CPU and GPU work together. How long does it take to launch the same game on both of these devices and make it playable? You know, it shocked me. The iPhone 6 did so much better. Despite the multi-core score being better on the M9, it was playable long before before the HTC One M9. I really don't understand how a phone so powerful takes so much longer to load the same game. Is the game just not optimized for the phone well? Is the phone not optimized for gaming very well? Who knows, but the iPhone loaded about 4 times faster. And here's the very same test with Temple Run 2. Although the time varies between games, I noticed one consistent result is that the iPhone loads every game faster than the HTC One M9, which really surprised me because of all the specs HTC is boasting about the M9. And that speed difference was also apparent when loading web pages. It could be that the Java engine is just better on the iPhone, but I certainly noticed a difference in loading web pages. The iPhone was faster in most tests. On the wireless side of things, results were pretty consistent between both devices. Both have the latest AC standard. However, the M9 has slightly newer Bluetooth technology, an FM radio, and an infrared blaster. Now let's talk camera. Sometimes bigger isn't always better, and in this test I'll show you guys that even though the specs are better on the M9, that does not mean that the actual photo quality is better. Now take a look at this video. Notice anything wrong with the HTC One M9? Well, does that look real to you? The colors are just so wrong. They're overexposed. And the one thing I hate about the HTC One M9 camera is the focus. It takes a very long time to focus. Continuous autofocus doesn't work very well. The iPhone does a really good job of tracking subjects when recording video, and that translates over to taking pictures as well, all thanks to those focus pixels. As you'll notice, the color is more true to life on the iPhone 6 photos, and the iPhone 6 does a much better job of taking photos of a moving subject. So when it comes down to specs, as you guys can see, that doesn't mean everything. When it comes to the camera, megapixels don't mean better quality. So that 8 megapixel sensor on the iPhone 6 does a very good job of taking quality pictures true to life color. Selfie mode on the HTC One M9 is actually really cool. The front facing camera has an ultra wide mode, which is really nice to have. Now what's the point of all those nice features, all that power, if you can't use it? Battery life on the HTC One M9 is surprisingly very good. I mean, the bigger shell gives you more room for a bigger battery. Its 2840 mAh battery coupled with ultra power saving mode makes for a deadly combo, whereas the iPhone 6 has a measly 1810 mAh battery and no ultra power saving mode, which is a shame because it would be nice to have on the iPhone. The fast charge feature is worth mentioning on the HTC One M9. If you're in a rush, put it on charge. In 30 minutes, you could have 60% of your battery charged. That's quite incredible. Software-wise, personal preference, but the latest version on the M9 is Android Lollipop 5.0.2 and iOS 8.2 on the iPhone 6. The M9 is running a custom HTC Sense skin. So let's talk about some pros and cons. The HTC One M9 has amazing speakers. Not only are they the best in class, uncomparable to other smartphones, the positioning is great. It's on the front of the device. That means you can hear it better, and it's not obstructing your hand placement when viewing media or playing games. Not happy with the 32 gigabytes of onboard memory? Well, the HTC One M9 allows you to upgrade your memory at your own will, something the iPhone 6 is clearly lacking. HTC provides an incredible program for the M9. If you break it, if you drop it in water, you can get it replaced absolutely free. Redeemable only once, but uncomparable to the costly Apple Care plan. And again, the speakers are just amazing. You gotta hear this thing in person. Stereo speakers on a phone, best idea ever. Now, what I don't like about the M9 is it gets really hot. If you're using this thing in a game, watch movies, browse the internet for a while, you'll notice it gets a little toasty in your hand. And that power button positioning is terrible. Whoever thought to put the volume rockers on the right side right above the power button has clearly not used this device himself. Now, the iPhone has Touch ID. HTC One M9 has nothing comparable, no fingerprint sensor. Of course, a really cool feature. If you've been using this for a while, it's very convenient. Now, Apple Pay on the iPhone 6 is also really awesome. Forgot your credit card? Well, no problem. It's in your phone now. Now, this is something that the HTC One M9 is missing. There is no standard payment system. You'd have to use a third-party application. And this is strictly not to the HTC One M9, but the App Store is very limited. I couldn't find some of my favorite games like Bastion on the HTC One M9's App Store. Now, of course, the iPhone has probably even more faults than the HTC. It's extremely uncustomizable. What you buy is what you're stuck with the memory. That's non-upgradable. It's a very limited and controlled environment by Apple, whereas HTC, Android is more free. You even have a file browser. You can see all your files, move them around. You almost have root access. Pricing is not too far off between these devices, of course, depending on if you're getting it on a contract, off contract, and carrier is a very big factor as well. On the iPhone, sadly, you do have to pay an increment depending on which memory size you want. The HTC One M9 comes in a flat 32 gigabytes. So in conclusion, after completing this review, I want to share one thing with you, and that's never trust the specs. When HTC just announced this thing, everybody was ecstatic. I mean, this thing was powerful, it was beautiful, but when we actually have it in hand comparing to the iPhone 6, it's not as amazing as it sounded. The specs don't always matter. It's how these devices compare in the real world and how they fit your needs. One isn't necessarily better than the other. Each have their own merits, their own exclusive features, and it's how they fit your life and your needs that really matters. Although I gotta say, I was really impressed. The iPhone 6 is a truly worthy contender to the HTC One M9. It can do almost everything it can, and it's a very fast phone. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope I helped you decide, and be sure to check out the drop test between the M9 and iPhone 6. Hope you enjoyed this video. Have a great day. Peace.